Welcome to a special interview of the Working Fans Podcast. Today, we are talking to Nicholas Vick, Krissy Toomey from Toomey Tools, Randy Hogan, and it wouldn't be the Working Fans Podcast if we didn't have the man called Dave. Before we get into the body of this interview, you guys know we got to play that intro video. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Krissy, we want to start with you. How long has Toomey Tools been around, and how did you guys get in the business of putting on Kids Fest?
So Toomey Tools has been around for almost 22 years. My husband and his brother started it when they were around 20 and 21. And probably about 2012 was our first Kids Fest year, I want to say. And we put it on for basically we live in a small town, and we wanted to give back to the town we lived in. So we basically wanted the kids to have fun, but we also wanted to give back to any local charities. We started with a couple kids with disabilities who needed help in our small town, and it just grew even more and more every year.
Nice. And how did you decide to work the wrestling into it? Because I said before we started on air here that when Dave and I first got a chance to call wrestling, it was outside of Toomey Tools, and it was with Nicholas Vick. So how did you guys become in business?
Well, so we started with the midget wrestling, which was really big in our little town. And then we decided, hey, maybe we can even get, bigger wrestlers, not just midgets. And so then we got hooked up with Jimmy Hart. That's when he talked to us, and we decided we wanted to bring out as many WWF legends that we could get, along with wrestling shows. But then we started incorporating them into our Kids Fest and other events that we did throughout the year.
Nice. Now, Nick, when we last did commentary for you, you had the wrestling company. Now you're kind of into putting on events. How does that work, and kind of what made you make that transition?
So we don't do monthly shows anymore as we used to. The market is just a lot of wrestling companies in Florida, but what Tim was doing, and I figured we do so much for Tim and try to run a monthly show is just so overwhelming. So I love the fact that what Tim was doing in the community, and it's the same thing that we do at Knockout, as you guys know that in the past is what we used to do together. I think it's a great opportunity to just kind of put everything on hold and just do strictly shows for Tim and Tim only. So we're just Knockout Wrestling is exclusive to Toomey Tools now for mostly his charity events, different wrestling events that we do there. Now we obviously do other things, as far as advertising, marketing. We have our own, obviously the brand, the Knockout brand, our clothing line. We talks about energy drinks and water labels, other things like that, trying to get that brand out there. But as far as wrestling goes, Tim and I have been working together for 5 years now. I think close to 4 or 5 years, and it's a great, it's a great relationship. And I say I couldn't work with anyone else and try to do so much. It just really enjoyed the time with him.
Nice. Now, Randy, we got to ask you, because we tend to ask this with any wrestlers. Who trained you, and how did you get into the business?
Well, I have to make this long story short. I was trained by Ted and Jerry Oates in Columbus, Georgia, who they also trained Marty Jannetty. That he was there just before me. I've been a fan since I was 6, 7 years old. My grandparents used to take me with the old school guys, like the original Sheik and Dick the Bruiser and Killer Kowalski and all those kind of guys. So actually, my grandparents got me hooked on being a fan, and that carried right through to today. I still watch most of the product and keep up with it. But I'm still just a big old fan, but that's how I got started. I wanted to know what was real and what was fake. That's all I wanted to know, okay? So I was in the restaurant business. I was managing a restaurant down in Boca Raton, and they closed the restaurant, so I called Jerry Oates, who owned a gym up there. I said, Jerry, do you know anybody who trains people down here? And he said, well, the only guy I know right now is Hiro Matsuda, who trained that other Hogan guy, Lex Luger, and a couple other ones. So he said, but, I train people up here. So we negotiated, packed everything I had up in my car, went from Boca Raton up to Columbus, Georgia, started training. And 13 months later, I had my first match. And that's where the long story started. I said my first match. That's all I wanted to know. I knew it all, okay? Got the whole match. Until every Wednesday they shoot TV taping at the auditorium. And I went down and the guy I trained with, Bill Smith was his name, was putting up the ring. And I said, Bill, what are you doing? He said, well, they rent the ring for me when I come to town. He says, are you wrestling? And I says, no, because, again, I didn't want to be a wrestler. So he said, well, why don't you come up and watch me? I'm in this little bar in Athens, Georgia, I think it was. And I said, okay. He said, bring your stuff. I said, no, I'm not bringing my stuff. I'm just coming up to watch you. So that went about 2 times. And then the third time he taught me to bring in my bag. And they were short. And this was a little bar that had maybe 20 people in it at the most in a ring. One of the hot dog and a handshake payoff guy, anything. He said, Bill, does your buddy want to wrestle? And Bill said, well, sure. So he said, okay, you're going to wrestle a guy named Animal, and he's going to go over. So I go back in the locker room. I said, Bill, I'm wrestling this Animal guy, and he's going over. Does that mean he's going over the top rope, or I'm going over the top rope? I didn't know what it meant. He said, no, stupid. That means he's going to win. Oh, okay. So that was it. So at the end, I got through the match, did well, because back then there wasn't a lot of guys that were really technically trained. There's so many backyard guys. But luckily I was. So they said he wanted to come back next week, which I did. Promoter says, he says, you kind of look like that Hogan. Hogan was on his way up. Early 80s. Yeah. So he said, you kind of look like him. So we're going to call you Hal Hogan, and you're going to be his nephew or his cousin. I don't know what. I says, okay, that sounds good. So by the end of the night, I said, I don't care what you call me, because I was wrestling as Randy Franklin at the time. My dad's name was Frank. He passed away not much earlier than that. But I'll tell you what, I'll do the Hogan thing, but can you do Randy, which is my real name? They call me Hal. I wouldn't know who the hell they're talking about. So anyways, let's do Randy. So that's how Randy Hogan started, this little shot in the beer joint, little promoter. So I went home and told my girlfriend, okay, I got to do this Hogan thing now. So you got to bleach my hair, bleach my eyebrows, my mustache. I always had a dark tan. I had the long hair, but it was brown, about the color of yours, Joe. So now all of a sudden I was blonde and I was dark tanned and I had a little bit of muscle, not a whole lot. And that's how it started. So then just went on and on and on. And then you move up the ladder and you go to other places to see other guys wrestle, and they introduce you to the promoter. And you say, if you can ever use me, let me know. And they say, well, you got a good gimmick, come to the next show or whatever. I built right up until I got in I was working at a match, and Mike Jackson was there, who was the Alabama Tag Team Champion for like the last 40 years. In fact, he was on AEW not too long ago, 70 years old, and he still can go.
Yeah, he still goes really well. He's even showing up in GCW.
Yes. So anyways, I said, how do you get on TV? And he says, well, I bring guys up. Why don't you come with me on a Wednesday? And I can't guarantee to get you on, but I can get you up there. So I drove up a couple of Wednesdays, and just like that little bar, somebody was short. J.J. Dillon was doing the booking and said, Mike, you got one of your boys out there? I said, yeah, I got Hogan out there. Okay. So I went in and wrestled the Barbarian and the Warlord. First match, broke my nose. When you shoot somebody off like into the ropes, and there's an element of risk. You tell the guy, elbow, drop kick, whatever, as you're shooting them off, okay? Well, all I hit was Baboo. And I'm thinking, Baboo, well, now, first time on TV, adrenaline's going. I didn't know what's happening. I didn't want to look too stupid. So I went 100 miles an hour, hit them ropes, come off them ropes, and come with a size, whatever size foot he is, probably a 20, right in my face. Nose broke, blood going all over. What he did is, he's from Tonga, very strong accent, and he was saying big boot, like watch for the big boot. But all I hit was Baboo. So that was my introduction. So I guess they took pity on me and said, all right, Hogan, can you come back next week? I said, sure. So that went to a regular TV taping. Then they said, can you do house shows? And I said, sure. So now I did TV plus house shows. Now, this is still when they had the territories going, you know, and they were doing TV taping different places. And then they said, can you travel? And I said, yes. So that's how it all started.
Randy, and I mean this in the nicest way. I remember you on WCW Worldwide. I remember the Randy Hogan that came out, and I said, oh, you know, as a kid, I knew right away. I got it. I'm like, oh, looks like, you know. And I just want to know, and I mean this really respectfully, like, are you surprised? It just seems like with a good attitude and embracing, hey, I'm going to do whatever they ask and a hard work of it, you are still able to, you're doing this still now. I think it's amazing, man.
I tell you, it was a dream come true. I mean, everybody will tell you that. You know, It was different back then. You know, they had the territories, and there was more opportunities to get like on TV or get noticed in certain areas. I just happened to be, I lived in just an hour outside of Atlanta where we did the TV taping, most of it. So it was easy for me. So I got on TV, and, you know, they tape usually 3 hours at a time. And in most cases, I got to wrestle at least 2 out of the 3, which was double pay, you know, for one day. Right. And it was great. And then sometimes you wrestle a third match in the arena somewhere. So it was quite the experience. And I am just so blessed to have done it. And you know, it's funny because you don't got to worry about being respectful with me, okay? You could call me a jobber, enhancement, star maker, carpenter. I don't care, baby. I was there, and you was watching me, you know? And there's no embarrassment by getting your butt kicked by the Road Warriors or Abdullah the Butcher or Vader or any of those guys.
Nice.
I just absolutely love it. Love the fans and love you guys for keeping me relevant, you know, on podcasts and stuff. And Toomey Tools, let me get in front of my little fans again at Kid Fest.
Yeah, actually bringing it back to Toomey Tools and Kids Fest. Tell us what kind of activities you're going to have at the event on April 8th.
We are going to have a free Easter egg hunt. Every year we hide over 20,000 eggs for kids from ages 4 to 12 to hunt. We have a petting zoo. We have, I think we have the camels this year. We used to have an elephant, which was pretty cool, but this year we just have the camels. We have vendors set up. A lot of times the vendors have games the kids can play and everything. We have a carnival. An awesome mini carnival by our friend Cash. He has the fake bull riding. I don't know what it's called. He has this giant ball the kids get in and beat each other with. He has a lot of great rides, and it's just fun all around. The atmosphere is awesome. And of course, we have the wrestling show, and we have, you know, our big attraction of Kane, and then we have Randy there too, which is a big draw. Everybody who is
That's right, sister.
Yeah, I have to say my most favorite person ever, and I got the chance to pick him up from the airport, was Sergeant Slaughter. He is one of the best guys. He has a great sense of humor, and he is so sweet. And we got to go eat Zaxby's for the first time for him and Sonny. And it was he said it was the best meal has ever had.
Sergeant's great.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. Now, Nick, I
don't want to have a camel. The Iron Sheik's not going to be there, is he?
No, he won't be there.
Okay, I'm going to be watching for him. You're going to have a camel.
Now, Nick, I don't want to leave you out of all the questions. So can you tell us about 50 Legs and why it's an important charity?
50 Legs I met 2 years ago. Actually, I met Steve Chamberlain 2 Legs in the Bellevue location. That's the first time I met him. And I didn't know who he was until I met him over at Toomey Tools. And I got a chance to talk to him, learn his story. And just talking to him one-on-one and listen to his story is like, that man, he's like a halo. He's like a walking angel. You know, he's really, really good at what he does for not only children, but adults, veterans, anyone who needs prosthetics. He knows what it's like to be in that position with a limb missing. You know, he lost his leg in a motorcycle accident. He's also a wrestler, so he's also has that a common thing that we both love, is wrestling, and that Tim loves wrestling as well. So it's just one big family that we all have the same passions. You know, we all had a passion about wrestling. We all had a passion about giving our back to the community and helping others. And that's why I think this whole thing works with Tim, Steve, the wrestlers. They're all volunteering their time, a lot of them, and everybody just all coming together for this. It's just a really good moment. And It says it right there in the thing. It's all about the kids.
Randy, just back to you for a second too. You lived this charmed life. You know, I just got to ask.
They're not so pretty.
Any like fun stories that come to mind that maybe you could share on the podcast?
Probably none that I could share on the podcast. I'll give you a couple of.
There's kids watching, Randy.
I'll give you some moments that I've had. Okay.
Okay.
I was wrestling Abdullah the Butcher, Birmingham, Alabama, and of course, before the match started, he ran across the ring and hit me in the head with a belt. I don't know what title he had. But now usually you're going to have your fingers there. You're going to hit it with a leather side or something. Man, he hit me with a plate right in the back. And I didn't know he was going to do that. So we go through the match, and, of course, he's jobbing me out most of it. Throws me outside of the ring. Now, Alabama, let me tell you, that's a different kind of fan there. Okay, they are wild. They are animals. So he threw me out there, and everybody's razzing me, and Abdul's out there, and he spikes me in the thumb, and he gets a kendo stick. And he starts beating me across the back with this stick. And, I mean, it really hurts. Ow. So finally he threw me back in the ring. And he used to do, I guess, a flying elbow. We called it a flying lat because he had so much skin down there. We just clap on you. So anyways, they didn't pin me. So I went back in the locker room. And common professionalism is no matter what happens, you get hurt, you get stiff, the guy screws up, whatever, you go back and you thank him. So I was kind of staying a little bit. So I went back, Abdullah, he's sitting there with his feet up on a desk, smoking a cigar. Now, Abdullah is one of the most well-spoken people. You would never know it because he never speaks, when he's in gimmick. So he thanked for the match. And he says, "Yeah." He says, "You okay, kid?" I says, "Yeah." I said, "Thank you." So, but you about beat me to death with that kendo stick. The cigar, he says, "Son, it's good for the business." Now, I didn't know what that meant for years. And I've always thought about, why would he say that to me? Well, old school mentality, if you're right at the guardrail, between the ring and the rail, and people are sitting right there, they're like maybe 5 feet away from you. You can't pull a punch or what do they do? The sissy smacks now, they smack you across the back, with a chair. Man, they smacked us in the head, 2x4s, chairs, whatever. But when you're that close, you don't want to give those doubters any more reason to say, "Oh, that's fake. Did you see that? They missed that. They didn't hit. He didn't really hit him. He missed him by a mile." Man, old school, especially with Abdullah, Wahoo McDaniel, guys like that. You're that close to a fan, they're going to lay it in, and you take it. And you don't whine about it. You don't cry about it. It's a difference in today and yesterday, okay? In the old days, I think it was job security. Why I worked that much, wasn't that good. Got my brains beat out on TV, which anybody could have done. But I always conducted myself PG and very professional, both in the locker room and out. I thanked my opponents. I always thank the promoter for having me and, please have me back again type of thing. Nowadays, it's not like that. It's like everybody wants to get their 20 monkey spots in, okay? It used to be, when they say a wrestler is working, okay, you work, that doesn't mean you're just in working. Actually, a lot of it goes back to the old Carney days when wrestling started. And you work the crowd. You try to get the crowd invested in you, in the match. If I'm jobbing or enhancement or whatever you want, it's my job to make this guy look meaner and bigger and stronger and make myself look more and more beat down. That's my job, okay? Nowadays, all these guys want to do all these monkey flips. Everybody kicks out of everybody's finisher. There's no finishers anymore. And they wonder why they don't get anywhere. It's just a whole different ballgame. I could go on about this stuff, but I don't want to take more time.
No, I think it's great. I think
old school mentality.
But I think one thing you make a good point about is just that professionalism and just being, a guy to get along with, dependable. People can take that to any job. Being dependable, showing up and getting along is 90% of the battle.
And if you go and you have a job and you get paid to do whatever it is, you're a jobber. Everybody's a jobber.
Yes.
So why would I be, like my buddy Bob Cook, offended by the word jobber? Doesn't make any sense to me. Like I said, I'm just proud of everything I got to do and very fortunate.
That's awesome.
Yes. Now, Nick, I know you're running low on battery, so I'll ask you one last question before we get you out of here, and then we're gonna bring it back to Toomey Tools. But who can we expect on this card, or is it up in the air until the date?
No, I'll leave it up to 10 to announce the superstars who will be there. But knockout superstars, we're going to have a few people there. Now, I have to say this because the Crazy Bastards warned me earlier today. If I don't mention their name, they're going to beat me down. So the Crazy Bastards, all of them, the whole team will be there at the ring. They're going to have fun. They're going to be crazy to do their thing. They've been, Carmen Dean will be there to nurse. Savannah Thorne will be there. Devlin McKay will be there. Blake Blanks. There's a lot of the good superstars that you have seen in the past as far as knockout superstars will be there. Cole, Gator Boone. There's quite a few of them. We're also going to have a few models who'll be walking around wearing our knockout athletic wear. So, Randy, calm down. But we're going to have a few. We're going to have a few of our athletic wear walking around advertising our athletic wear. Also talking about Toomey Tools website, so you can go in there and subscribe to them and their Facebook page, and also subscribe and check out our Facebook page as well. So I think our show starts at 2 o'clock, right after the Easter egg hunt, I believe. We go on at 2 o'clock. So
excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, Nick.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll continue talking to Krissy and Randy for a little bit here.
All right, Krissy, love you guys. Love Tim. Love you, Randy.
Bye.
Love you, Nicholas.
Thank you, guys. Have fun.
Later, now, we want to thank you guys again for sitting here and actually allowing us to help you promote this. Now, Krissy, is there anything else you wanted to get out about Toomey Tools or the whole event before we dig into more stories with Randy here?
Well, I mean, it's going to be a great time. This is our first time doing it up in our new Waldo store. So, you know, for anybody in our Bellevue and Ocala locations, you know, it's still going to be as big and fun as it was in Bellevue. We're just running out of room. So we came up to Waldo and we expanded even more, and it's going to be a great time. You know, make sure you bring the kids and come up and have fun, especially you diehard wrestling fans. I mean, like I said, we've had so many people come up. It's been such a great response, and you know, everybody, they just have a great time. And
nice.
I mean, I hope, you know, everybody enjoys it.
The address is running at the ticker at the bottom. We got the phone number there. You got the date. Follow Toomey Tools website for any information. And thank you for joining us here, Krissy.
No problem. And we're on Facebook, so, you know, find us on Facebook.
Excellent. And we'll send this video over to you so you can post it on your page. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
And
have a great night.
Hi, Krissy.
And Randy, you got the main event spot. What is some of the best advice you've gotten in wrestling over the years, and who gave it to you?
Well, the most profound I already shared with you from Abdullah.
Right.
You know, basically, don't give these haters more and more ammunition to hate. You know, it's a good sport. I have mixed feelings on a lot of the product today. To me, take this Kid Fest, okay? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of kids there. To me, there's no place in my sport to be going around the ring, flipping people off with the bird, swearing, all this kind of stuff. It's got to be PG, you know? Because what am I going to do? I got my little 7-year-old kid who's coming to see his star. He's got his belt. He's got everything else, you know. And I paid extra money to get a front row seat. And then I got a John Moxley or somebody going like that, you know. No place for that. No place for it. Because those kids are going to be the fans of tomorrow. That's what's hopefully going to keep this going, okay? We've already dug ourselves in a hole with the internet, okay, as far as killing kayfabe, okay, as they say. They still don't know all the tricks, but they pretty much know most of them. So why give them extra ammunition? It's good. I tell you, like Abdullah said, and this goes back to probably 1983, 40 years ago. He said that, and I still remember. It's good for the business. Everything you do, say, from the time you get out of your car until you get back in your car leaving, you got to be in gimmick. You got to be it. If you're a heel, play a heel. Still a PG, which you can do, tell the kids, get out of here, whatever else, Some guys, I've seen heels that will still sign an autograph for a little kid, but then they'll cool it off with the mom or the dad. No, Get out of here. Get that brat out of here. Whatever, But they're going to sign up for the kid. They're going to make his day. Okay. That kid's going to remember that. He's going to go to school and talk about it. Remember it his whole life. I still remember being a kid. Like I said, going to see the Sheik and the Dick the Bruisers and Killer Kowalski, the Bruno Sammartino. I'm so old. I actually got to see the real or just George wrestle, where he had a male valet that had a pump with perfume around the ring. He would throw gold hat pins out to the crowd and everything. It's all part of his gimmick. But guys like I saw Bruno Sammartino when he was a young guy, Pat O'Connor and Lou Thez, and just I was brought up on these guys, and you didn't see none of that nasty R-rated stuff back then. You just didn't see it. And maybe that's why I'm still that 7 or 8 year old kid loving wrestling, because that's the way I was indoctrinated. And I hope that we do the same thing with these kids, and everybody does with all the kids, Be humble. Don't get stuck on yourself because you ain't nothing. Because there's always somebody who can whip you, either gimmick-wise or for real, Don't get too full of yourself. Appreciate where you're at. If you make $25 or $250 or whatever it may be thankful that you got the opportunity, that you're living your dream and everything. And don't embarrass your promotion. Don't embarrass your opponent. Don't embarrass yourself. Just keep it professional. And that's the way to move up. And if you don't move up, at least it's job security, because they'll want people like you back.
Randy, I'm kind of curious. Hold on. I just got to ask this because it was just something that occurred to me. And I don't know if I ever saw this. Did you and that other Hogan, did you guys ever actually run across each other for I know probably in WCW, maybe I could be wrong about that, but ever get an autograph sign, anything? Never. He
was up in North. I was down in WCW. He came down WCW.
Oh, yeah.
And I did some stuff up north and that. So it's funny because he lives just about an hour from me.
Mm-hmm.
And we've never met face to face. So people say, well, what would happen? What do you think what would he think? Whatever.
Yeah.
Well, about a year ago, I did a convention with Jimmy Hart.
Yeah.
And I had never met Jimmy before, but he was right across the aisle from me. I had to look at him all day long. And I said, I got to do it. So when I was slow, I walked across the aisle. I said, Jimmy, could I have a picture taken with you? Sure, brother. Jimmy, he's like a hamster on crack. He's always a million miles, almost 80 years old, 1 million miles an hour. So anyways, you did. And again, thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate it. I was a little bit hesitant because I know your relationship with the other Hogan, business relationship, not only in wrestling, but some outside things they do.
Sure.
And he said, well, let me tell you, brother. He said, not that you're the topic of conversation, but we're aware of you and we have, talked about you at times, seen you. And the thing is that we both appreciate is you have never tarnished the Hogan name. You've never done, when he went NWO, okay? And I was doing just the red and yellow. Well, I had to go out and have HWO shirts, okay? Hogan World Order shirts, okay? And I did some healing, independent stuff. So when he came back and cleaned up his act and went back to the red and yellow, I did too. So that was about as close as I ever got to Hogan himself. So Jimmy said, you've never done anything to embarrass us, never gotten any controversy with the drugs or getting to jail or DUIs or nothing like that. He said, we love the gimmick. He said, love the outfits. You go, brother. You just keep on going. That's awesome. So to me, that was okay.
Yeah. Right.
And if you had taken liberties, then maybe they'd have an issue, but you've done nothing but entertain and go at it from a good place. So
right. It comes down to, no matter what job you're in, knowing your audience. If you got kids, obviously there's going to be kids watching you. Now, if you're working in a strip bar or something, a whole different story,
Right.
But just conscious of the kids. Mom and dad, they're bringing the kids. Mom and dad's not coming dragging the kids along. Okay. The kids are saying, Mom and Dad, wrestling or whatever, let's go to wrestling. kids are going to get hooked. Let's go back to wrestling, mom and dad, you know? So I think as ambassadors, it's our job to build and keep the profession going.
Yeah, very important. Now, I'm going to hit you with one last question, Randy, because we could talk to you all day.
I'm here all day, brother.
We got to have you back again on the regular podcast for a talk. But
Anytime.
For one last question for this advertisement here, you're such a fan of the old school, but who are some of the newer school guys that catch your eye, and who do you think is not doing it right? Because I forget what Dr. Tom had a quote. It's like there's a right way, there's a couple different ways, and then there's like in the middle. I should have known the quote before I asked, but who's doing it the right way?
In today's market, we'll start with WWE. I have always been a big fan of Dolph Ziggler, simply because of his attitude. Now, he can out-wrestle most of them guys, okay? He really can, but he's professional. He does whatever gimmick they want him to do. He'll lose to whoever they want him to lose to, you know. They'll let him win once in a while. But people ask him, you know, well, why don't you go to, you know, Impact or somewhere else where maybe you can get a push? He said, look, he says, I'm making almost $1 million a year. He said, why would I want to change? So he keeps it really close, you know, and him and Miz are best friends. And Miz, again, you talk about somebody making something of nothing. I mean, Miz was absolutely nothing, you know, and he's still not muscled up or nothing else, but he's got the mouthpiece like Dusty Rhodes had, like Hulk Hogan had, like Superstar Billy Graham, like all them guys, you know. They weren't that talented in the ring. Now, they could work, okay, but they weren't that talented in the ring, but boy, they could fill them seats just with their mouth. So I like Ziggler. I think Damian Priest, I really like him too, as far as the future. I think those two are really going to push it. There's others I can't think of. Charlotte Flair, I think, is right in the footsteps of her father. You know, she cuts realistic heel promos. She can come on, she can be a baby face once in a while, and then she goes back and she's a heel. She's the queen. She plays that role really well, just like her dad. I am not a fan of Bianca Belair. She's pretty good in the ring in that, but again, to be the total package, you got to be able to cut a promo too. She can't cut a promo. Everything she says is rehearsed. You can tell when she laughs, when she giggles, when she forgets what to say, she'll look away and look up at the crowd. You know, no reaction, but she's looking at that. Again, all part of it. In let me see, AEW, I am a zero fan of Moxley. I think Bryan Danielson has had his glory days. I don't like any of the old guys they have brought back. I'm not a fan of Cody Rhodes, really. I mean, Cody was nothing until he got in a position where he pretty much ran a company and put him, just like his daddy did, put himself right on top, right in the title contention, built up this aura about him. And then when he jumped, what else could they do? You know, obviously he only jumped because he wants to get the title that his daddy never got. And they keep bringing that all the time. So, which I'm sure he's going to get probably WrestleMania. But Cody, it's easier to say who I'm not fans of that are over than who I'm big fans of, you know? Like I said, I like Charlotte. I like the WWE product more than AEW. AEW, biggest problem, and I'll take Wednesday night. Too many factions. There's 4 in this group. There's 3 in this group. They had like 3 tag team matches and an 8-man tag team match, you know, on the show. They're not building any stars. So who do they go to? Moxley, okay, who's a big zero. Bryan Danielson, you know, whose day is long gone. Since Cody left, they're not building anybody. So you got the young bucks, okay? Now, to me, here we go. In the old days, you went in a bar and you sat at the bar and there was a wrestler sitting next to you, you know he was a wrestler.
Right.
Big, barrel-chested, not necessarily pretty boys, but they were big, they were strong, they looked the role, they acted the role, and everything else. Now, do you think I'm going to be intimidated when I got like Orange Cassidy on one side and Darby Allin on the other side of me? I mean, really? it loses credibility, I think, to the sport. Bigger than life. That's what these kids look at us as wrestlers. We're movie stars to them. We're big, larger than life, So at least be the size of a wrestler. You couldn't get in wrestling back in my day unless you weighed a minimum 200 pounds, and you had to start putting on after that. Now there's no weight limit. You got these guys 150, 160 pounds, and that's a majority of them. The Young Bucks, both of them. Again, Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin. So it's hard for me to get invested in these characters, okay? I don't watch any of the internet stuff. To me, pro wrestling, if you're not on major networks, it ain't pro. Now, I know Nick Aldis, I've known for many, many years. He's a smart guy. Stays right where he's at right now. But back in the old days, okay, when they're doing TNA, was at Universal Studios doing TV taping, I had a food truck. And I used to feed them. That's when James Storm was there. Bobby Lashley was there. Aldis was there. Yeah. So I'd talk. Kurt Angle was there. So I got to meet all of them. I'd cook them dinner or cook them lunch every day. And it was quite an experience right there. So, but guys like Nick Aldis, even though he's, as I call it, a little internet sensation, man, he's good.
Yeah.
Other than having Mickey James, he's got the look, he's got the muscles, he's got the talent. He can work in that. So guys like that, I got a lot of hope for the future.
He was one I actually heard when you were talking about that, the credibility thing. I had saw an interview with him where he mentioned that he says, yes, I think there is an audience out there where they are attracted to a guy that looks like them that can get that. He says, but I think more than not, we also need people that they need to try to attain, that they could never be, those stars. He said, that's all right for once in a while. He said, but for the most part, we need people that look like larger than life. So basically what you said.
And you don't have to be a bodybuilder to be larger than life,
Right.
I mean, Ric Flair was average size. He always went around 240 or so, 250. But let me tell you, Flair walks into a bar and it's on. This is Ric Flair. He is a world champion. As they say, Ric Flair lived Ric Flair's life. He couldn't afford it, but he lived it anyways to this very day. They had, like Big Show, and guys that are big like that. I see a lot of them from, India or Pakistan, whatever. There's 3 or 4 of these 7-foot guys coming through, Now, most of them, like almost, whatever his name is, they don't know how to wrestle, though. They get in, they can do a choke slam. They can't take a good bump. They might lean back against the ropes. They might shake their head. They can't wrestle, though. Big Show could actually do a little wrestling. He's one of the few. An older big guy like Bam Bam Bigelow. Man, he was agile as they go. Guy could go. Even Yokozuna for 600 pounds, could take bumps, could wrestle, could do stuff, could get up in that. So a lot of respect for them guys that look like wrestlers and live the life.
And that's back when guys of size also came from athletic sports. Now it's, if a guy is over a certain height, let's get him into wrestling. We'll find a spot for him.
Correct.
And then that's where you find like these they can do some things, but they almost find their sweet spot. And like you were saying earlier about Miz, he's not much to look at physically, but when you give him a mic, he's 10 foot tall with that thing in his hand. And those are the comic book characters you need in wrestling that makes it the program that it is.
Now, AEW, who's got, of course, MJF and Eddie Kingston, they do great promos. Both of them do, okay? So do you think that WWE wants to lose a mouthpiece like Miz to go over there? Could you imagine? They could sell out the big arenas just on the mouthpieces like they did with Dusty Rhodes and like they did with, like I said, Superstar Graham and Hogan and a bunch of other ones. So it's just a wrestler's got to be a wrestler, Now, that don't mean going to a bar picking fights or nothing else. But if somebody says something or opens the door, jump in. Don't be humble. Don't be a smart ass or nothing, but just let them know, I wrestle. Yeah, you're awful small. Well, yeah, I weigh 240 pounds. So tell these other guys that they're small. That's the take on who's coming up in that. I'm anxious to see what happens through WrestleMania.
I will say this
Oh, we
too,
are too.
just because we're on the subject. I'd be interested in getting Randy's opinion on is time to build things up. One thing I'll say, and this isn't to knock Vince or anything, but since Triple H has been in the creative now, you notice that Gunther, Walter, Intercontinental Champion, in main event spots, TV time, had it for at least 6 months now. Belair, even not a fan, they've had that belt for a while, right? We're building something there. This storyline with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline, it's been building. And I think that's suddenly where you're seeing more people really start to tune into WWE again too. And even people that weren't fans are suddenly fans again. I think that element's been missing from wrestling. I don't think it's even quite still all the way, but that ability to tell long-term stories.
Storylines. The whole thing between old school and new school. There are no storylines coming out other than the old school WWE stuff. That Sami Zayn thing, again, they took a workhorse,
right?
Then Sami, and now they're trying to push it so he actually has a chance of dethroning Roman Reigns.
Right.
But if they do that, what happens if The Rock is available for WrestleMania? They're building those. So many different ways to go between now and WrestleMania. I'm saying right now, my prediction, if The Rock is going to wrestle, if he's going to come for Roman Reigns, okay, he's going to beat Reigns. He's going to get the titles, and then he's going to relinquish them because of his movie obligations and that. So that will bring the split between SmackDown and Raw again. Now they'll have 2 separate titles again. That's just my way of doing it.
Good.
Otherwise, whoever beats Roman is going to get both titles, and they're never going to get back to those 2 individual titles. So
if The Rock doesn't show up, then how do you see WrestleMania playing out? Just Cody taking the titles off of him? Yeah,
I really do. On the grandest stage of them all, that's where Cody's gonna get the belt, and honor his father with that, and then. But who's after that?
Right.
Who's coming up next? So
that's what's going to be interesting to see. And WWE's been so interesting lately. It's been years since I've personally been this invested in WWE, and it's
long-term storytelling, though.
It's great to have that rekindled. But Randy, you've been very gracious with your time tonight. Thank you. We will have you on again. But before we let you go, tell the fans where they can find you.
Oh, where they can find me. First of all, merchandise. If you want Randy Hogan stuff, go on Facebook, Randy Hogan Stuff. That's the website. I got t-shirts. I got the Randomania t-shirts in yellow, red, black, royal blue. And then I got the black signature shirt, baby. Hogan's World Order. We got those too. I got the bandanas. I got the sunglasses in all different colors. I got wristbands. I got those little 2-pound barbells that the women use in aerobics and stuff.
Yeah.
I got those autographed on the handle, so you could do your hanging and banging. Okay. So I got those.
Oh, wow.
Pictures. I got 14 different pictures, different things. So you don't have to buy just one. You can buy a whole bunch of them and never have them repeated. So, and again, we're going to have those April 8th at the Kid Fest in Waldo, Florida at Toomey Tools. Okay. I'm going to be bringing pictures. If they won't let me sell them, the hell with them. I'll give them all away. I don't care. Anyways, we're going to be there with merchandise, smiling, kids stealing, wheeling, dealing, kissing babies, making women cry. We're going to do it all. Now, Kane, I don't know what he's going to do. I hope he's not spitting fire at me or nothing. I'm going to have to stay away from him, and I'm going to be watching for the Iron Sheik, because where there's a camel, there might be the Iron Sheik. But other than that, I'm going to be right there, front and center, pictures, autographs, other stuff, freebie stuff. I got free stuff for everybody.
Excellent.